Welcome to my channel of Gill Master Stories. Don't forget to subscribe button and press on the bell icon for more inspiration and mind-blowing stories. A heated hallway encounter between a fiery long-term tenant and a poised new resident quickly spirals into chaos, leaving an entire apartment complex stunned, and one shocking act caught on camera changes everything. The hallway was quiet as Monique adjusted the last box in her arms. She had just moved into this modest apartment complex in Dallas, Texas. The worn carpet lining the halls carried the faint smell of cleaning solution. Mixed with a hint of dust, it wasn't glamorous, but it was her first place since graduating college. A step toward independence she had worked so hard for. Balancing the box, Monique fumbled for her keys, grateful to finally call this small but cozy unit her home. Before she could find the right one, footsteps echoed behind her. She turned expecting to see another tenant. Instead, a woman stood a few feet away. Her arms crossed tightly, face scrunched in irritation. The woman's tone was sharp, cutting through the stillness like a blade. "Excuse me, but do you live here?" Monique blinked, confused. Yes, I just moved in." She motioned toward the box in her hands, her tone polite but firm. "Apartment 1-C." The woman didn't budge. Her posture remained stiff, eyes narrowing, like she didn't believe a word Monique had said. "I haven't seen you before. How did you get in?" "We don't just let anyone wander around here." Monique's brows furrowed slightly. She was tired after a long day of moving, but she kept her cool. "I used my key fob to get in. Is there a problem?" The woman leaned in slightly, her voice dropping into something more hostile. "There is if you're not supposed to be here." The tension was palpable now, thick and unavoidable. Monique tried to stay calm, but something about this woman's energy felt off. Her questions weren't coming from genuine concern. They were dripping with suspicion, entitlement, and something darker that Monique couldn't quite put her finger on. But before Monique could say more, the woman stepped closer, her voice rising just enough to draw the attention of a neighbor. Cracking their door open, "Look, I don't care where you say you're from. I'll be calling the building manager to confirm if you actually belong here." Monique sighed, setting her box down. She met the woman's gaze, her voice steady, despite the irritation bubbling beneath her surface. "That's fine, you can call whoever you need to. I'm not going anywhere. Have a good day." The woman's lips pressed into a thin line, her face red with frustration, but before she could respond, the faint creak of another door opening interrupted the moment. A tenant, a middle-aged man in slippers and a faded sports jersey, peeked his head out, watching the scene unfold. Monique could feel her chest tighten. She hated being the center of attention, especially for something like this. She just wanted to settle into her new home without drama, but it seemed fate had other plans. Little did anyone know, the tension brewing in this hallway was about to explode in a way no one could have predicted. Monique bent down to pick up her box, doing her best to ignore the piercing stare of the woman. But the tension lingered heavier now, as if the hallway had shrunk around them. "I don't think you understand," the woman said, her voice louder now, clearly aiming to involve the onlookers who had cracked their doors open. "We have a certain standard here. People don't just come waltzing into this building without someone noticing." Monique straightened up, locking eyes with the woman. "I didn't waltz anywhere. I walked through the front door with my key, just like anyone else who lives here. Do you have an actual issue? Or is this just something else?" The words hung in the air, and the woman's face twisted, as if she had been challenged in a way she wasn't prepared for. She took a step closer, her finger wagging in Monique's direction. "Don't get smart with me. You people think you can talk however you want." There it was, those two words, "you people," cut through the air like a slap. Monique felt a rush of heat rise to her cheeks. She took a deep breath, determined not to let anger take over. This wasn't her fight to escalate. She had just moved in. But staying silent didn't feel right either. "Excuse me," Monique said, her voice calm but firm. "What exactly do you mean by you people?" The woman stammered for a moment, caught off guard. "I meant strangers. People I don't recognize don't twist my words. Monique didn't flinch. Your words don't need twisting. They're doing just fine on their own. A murmur spread through the small crowd that had formed. More neighbors were stepping out now, their curiosity piqued by the growing tension. The man in the jersey leaned against his door frame, shaking his head slightly, while an older woman clutching her small dog looked on with wide eyes. "You're making a scene," Monique added, motioning to the onlookers. "Why don't you just call the building manager, like you said, and leave me alone?" But the woman wasn't backing down. Instead, her anger seemed to swell with every passing second. She jabbed a finger in Monique's direction. "I've lived here for 10 years. I know everyone in this building, and I've never seen you before. If you don't like me asking questions, maybe you shouldn't be here." The words were venomous, sharp enough to draw audible gasps from the neighbors. Monique clenched her jaw, forcing herself to remain composed. She knew this wasn't about her presence in the building. It was about power, this woman, trying to assert her dominance in the most humiliating way possible. Monique took a step back, crossing her arms. "You know what? Do what you have to do. I'm done explaining myself to you." The woman's eyes widened in disbelief, as though she wasn't used to being dismissed so easily. "Don't you walk away from me," she snapped, her voice echoing down the hallway. But Monique didn't move. She stood her ground, her gaze steady. "I'm not the one walking away. I'm the one standing here, minding my own business. While you make a fool of yourself." The hallway grew silent, except for the sound of someone's TV playing faintly in the background. The woman seemed to freeze for a moment, as if unsure of what to do next. The crowd's eyes shifted between her and Monique. The tension so thick it felt like something had to give, and then like a storm reaching its peak. Everything spiraled out of control. The woman's face darkened with fury. Her composure, what little there was, crumbled as she stepped even closer to Monique, her voice trembling with anger. "You think you can talk to me like that? Who do you think you are?" Monique remained still, her expression calm, but her heart raced. She wasn't scared. She was furious. Furious that she couldn't even move into her new home without this kind of confrontation. Furious that this stranger thought she had the right to interrogate her. "I think," Monique said carefully, her voice steady, "that I'm someone who deserves basic respect. That's who I am." The crowd murmured again, some neighbors visibly nodding in agreement, others watching with bated breath. But the woman was beyond reason now. Her fists clenched, her entire body stiff with rage. "You don't belong here," she spat out, her words dripping with venom. And then, as if to punctuate her fury, she did the unthinkable. In one swift, vile motion, she spit at Monique. The sound echoed through the hallway like a gunshot. The spit landed on Monique's shoulder, the act so shocking that the crowd collectively gasped. One woman even cried out, "Oh, my God!" Monique froze, disbelief etched across her face. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The woman's chest heaved, as if she were proud of what she had just done. But the reality of her actions quickly began to sink in. Monique took a deep breath, forcing herself to stay calm. She wasn't going to give this woman the satisfaction of a reaction. Slowly, deliberately, she pulled a tissue from her pocket, wiped her shoulder, and dropped the tissue into the box she'd been carrying. "You're disgusting," Monique said, her voice low but laced with authority. The crowd murmured louder now, some opally glaring at the woman. Phones were out, recording, texting, documenting every second of what had just happened. "Are you seriously recording this?" The woman barked at a tenant holding their phone up. "Yes," the man in the jersey replied bluntly. "You earned it." The woman turned red, her anger now mingling with panic. She backed up, her gaze darting between the phones and Monique. But she didn't see the loose rug behind her, a hazard many tenants had complained about, but no one had bothered to fix. In her frantic retreat, her heel caught the edge of the rug. It happened in an instant. Her balance faltered, her arms flailed, and with a yelp she crashed to the floor. The hallway erupted in gasps and then silence. The woman lay there stunned and humiliated, as her gaze flickered to the faces around her. No one moved to help you all right down there?" the man in the jersey asked sarcastically, crossing his arms as he leaned against the door frame. Monique took one last look at the woman, now sprawled on the floor. "Before turning and picking up her box, you should think about who you choose to mess with. Next time," she said softly, walking toward her apartment. The crowd parted as she passed, whispers buzzing around her like static. Behind her, the woman remained on the ground, glaring at the phone still pointed in her direction. But what came next would prove that this moment was only the beginning. The hallway felt heavier now, the air buzzing with the fallout of what everyone had just witnessed. The woman still sat on the floor, her face twisted in a mix of pain and humiliation. She pushed herself up slowly, wincing. As she tried to regain some semblance of dignity, "You'll all regret this," she snapped, pointing a trembling finger at the crowd. "You don't know who you're messing with." But the neighbors weren't buying it. They stood their ground, some shaking their heads in disbelief, others glaring in silent judgment. The man in the jersey chuckled, leaning casually against his door frame. "Lady, you're the one who doesn't know who you're messing with. Maybe it's time to stop while you're behind." The woman scowled at him but said nothing. Instead, she brushed herself off, straightened her jacket, and stomped toward the elevators. Her steps faltered as she noticed the phone, still recording her every move. "Turn those off," she shouted, her voice cracking. A tenant near the back of the crowd muttered, "Not a chance, people need to see this." It didn't take long for the videos to start making their rounds. By the time Monique had unpacked her last box, her phone buzzed with a notification, a text from a neighbor she just met. "Check this out, you handled that like a queen." Attached was a video, one of the many clips now circulating online. It showed the confrontation from start to finish. The woman's accusations, her vile act, and her eventual fall. The caption read, "When bigotry gets what it deserves." Monique watched the video in silence, her emotions swirling. She wasn't one to relish someone else's downfall. But there was a certain poetic justice in seeing the woman's actions backfire so spectacularly. Across the building, tenants were sharing the video, texting friends, and discussing the incident in hushed voices. The woman's name, Rhonda as it turned out, was on everyone's lips by the next morning. Her behavior had reached the building's management. A notice was slipped under her door that afternoon. It was a formal warning, citing her behavior as unacceptable and outlining potential consequences. If it happened again, Rhonda was livid. She stormed into the management office, demanding a meeting. But the receptionist was ready for her. "We've received multiple complaints about you," the receptionist said, her tone firm. "Your behavior is being reviewed, and you are required to issue an apology to the tenant you harassed." Rhonda scoffed, slamming her hand on the counter. "I won't apologize to her. She doesn't belong here." The receptionist raised an eyebrow. "If that's how you feel, you're free to find another building to live in." Meanwhile, Monique went about her day, unaware of the chaos brewing behind the scenes. She wasn't looking for an apology, she was just grateful. The situation hadn't escalated further, but the world had other plans. The video didn't just stay within the apartment complex. It began spreading to local social media pages, gaining traction as people shared it with captions like, "This is why we record everything," and "Karma in action." And as the video spread, it became clear that the ripples from this single encounter would reach far beyond the walls of their building. By the next evening, the video had taken on a life of its own. Local community pages were buzzing with comments, debates, and shares. It wasn't long before it caught the attention of a regional news outlet, which posted it with the headline, "Dallas woman confronted over racism. Instant karma caught on camera." Rhonda's face was now plastered across countless screens, her name trending in ways she could have never imagined. And definitely not in a good way. The comment section was brutal. She deserved every bit of that fall. Disgusting behavior. Why do people still act like this in 2024? Good on the young lady for keeping her cool. I hope her employer sees this. And that was the next bombshell. A colleague of Rhonda's stumbled upon the video, and recognized her immediately. It wasn't long before her workplace was tagged in the comments. Rhonda worked in customer relations for a mid-sized company, a role that relied heavily on public trust. The company released a statement within hours: "We do not condone discriminatory behavior. The employee in question has been placed on leave, pending investigation." In the apartment complex, Rhonda's once intimidating presence shrank to nothing. Her neighbors avoided her in the hallways, her usual sense of control replaced with isolation. Each time she stepped outside, she could feel the eyes on her, the whispers that followed her every move. Monique, meanwhile, became an unexpected hero. Tenants approached her with kind words and apologies for what she had endured. "You handled that better than I ever could," said the older woman with the small dog. "I just didn't want to stoop to her level," Monique replied, her tone humble. "It wasn't about proving her wrong, it was about keeping my peace." But the story didn't end there. A local, non-profit group that advocated for social justice reached out to Monique after seeing the video. They asked if she would speak at one of their events, sharing her experience and how she managed to rise above the confrontation. Monique hesitated at first. Public speaking wasn't her strong suit, but eventually agreed. Her story, she realized, wasn't just about what happened in that hallway. It was about resilience, dignity, and the power of standing tall in the face of ignorance. When the day of the event arrived, Monique stood in front of a small but engaged audience. "What happened to me wasn't unique," she began. "It's something too many people face every day, but the way we respond, our ability to hold our heads high, that's what defines us." The audience erupted into applause, and Monique felt a weight lift from her chest. She wasn't just moving past the incident, she was using it to make a difference. As for Rhonda, her life never quite returned to normal. She eventually moved out of the building, unable to face the community she had alienated. The weight of public shame followed her wherever she went, a stark reminder that actions have consequences. In the end, the lesson was clear: respect costs nothing, but the lack of it can cost everything. If this story resonated with you, make sure to share it and help spread the message that kindness and dignity always win in the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. For more content, please leave your comments and share your experiences. Thank you for being part of Gill Master Stories community. See you soon.